Grammy Award-winning music star Selena has been shot and killed in Texas.
Corpus Christi's Selena.
Tejano music star Selena.
Dead at the age of 23.
The suspect in the shooting has been holding police at bay for hours.
One of the biggest stars in Tejano music. She was shot twice in the back.
The accused murderer is Yolanda Saldivar, a friend and founder of Selena's fan club.
Hey brothers and sisters, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Lisa, founder of anaministry, and if you'd like to hear more of true crime cases from a Christian or biblical perspective, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Today we will be discussing where envy and selfish ambition exists, there is disorder and every kind of evil. Proverbs 14:30 reads, "A heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones." With that said, let's get started with today's news. Today we will be talking about Selena Quintanilla. Selena was a famous Mexican artist in the late 80s to early 90s and was referred to as the Queen of Tejano music. This was a popular music fusing Mexican styles with U.S. influences.
Tejano and norteño are meant to be danced at weddings, birthday parties, festivals, tardeadas, concert dances. People like to dance when they've got the chance. Of course, at school dances and parties, we have top 40, R&B, rap, and Tejano.
Selena was born on April 16, 1971 in Lake Jackson, Texas. She's out of 3 children and was the youngest child to Marcella and Abraham. Her father, Abraham, was a Mexican-American musician who wasn't that well known, but I guess you can say Selena got her music gene from her father. At age 6, Selena was already starting to show singing talent and had her first soundtrack released when she was 8. She had a close-knit family. They worked together and pretty much did everything together. The family then moved to Corpus Christi, Texas, and her father formed a singing group with Selena and called it Selena y los Dinos.
It was kind of hard at first because of the fact I knew that it was a means of putting food on the table for the whole family. You know, we did it to make a living.
At the beginning, when they were very young, I guess in a sense you could say that, yeah, I forced them. Because kids at that age can't make up their mind what they want, you know.
In 1984, Selena recorded her first record called Selena y los Dinos, and she went on the Johnny Canales show to promote her record.
Pero ya estamos negociando ahorita. Y hay muchas cosas.
¿Y qué pasó? 2 mujeres y un canales. Dos mujeres y un camino.
Bueno, acabamos de grabar eso. El señor Emilio de la Rosa llamó a mi papá para terminar la telenovela, pero yo no creo que tenemos tiempo.
Jose Behar, who was a music producer for the record label EMI, Latin Records, saw Selena perform at the Music Tejano Awards and knew immediately that he wanted to sign her.
Selena performing, I saw somebody who was vibrant, who was energetic, who was full of life.
I remember I went back and Selena was over there, what they want, you know.
We had just opened up EMI Latin. We were looking for the quote-unquote Gloria Estefan for EMI Latin. And I just said, this is too good to be true. It's that needle in the haystack.
And I told them, and everybody started high-fiving. How's that word? High-five?
She had the ability to interpret songs at such a young age, with such feeling, with such emotion, with that teardrop in that vocal cord.
Selena agreed and signed with their record label EMI and released her first debut album titled Selena in 1989. At this point, Selena met Chris Perez, who was the new guitarist for their band. Selena and Chris began a relationship despite Selena's father being against it. Abraham was so against this relationship that he ultimately fired Chris. However, that didn't stop Selena because on April 2nd, Selena and Chris eloped without telling anyone of their families. Her second album was titled Ven Conmigo, and this was released in 1990, and her third album, titled Entre a mi mundo, was released in 1992. One of the hit songs from this third album is one of my personal favorites. It's called Como la Flor, which means like a flower. Now, this made her career take off, and after this, she became a superstar. Her fan base grew, and there was this one fan that stood out among the rest, and her name is Yolanda Saldivar. Yolanda was a 31-year-old registered nurse that lived in San Antonio, Texas. When she met Selena, she was starstruck.
So tell me about your first meeting.
I was like meeting Whitney Houston.
At first, they don't see each other often, essentially only when Selena plays San Antonio.
I was their gopher, so to speak, in San Antonio.
But you loved it.
Yes.
It was a touch of celebrity.
Well, actually,
in San Antonio, Texas.
Well, not only that, but it was because my friends. It was Suzette and it was Selena. I did it for them.
But you had to have enjoyed the fact that your friends were becoming such celebrities.
Well, that too.
Selena was very personable and made herself available to her fans. At autograph signings, she wanted her fans to feel like they were just hanging out. She would even hire them and just overall did her best to remain humble and build genuine relationships with her fans. Yolanda asked Selena and her father if she can start a fan club for her. Soon after, Yolanda's role in Selena's life as a fan then began to grow into an actual friendship.
It was that our friendship had grown from being just a fan celebrity type to this personal type of relationship.
Selena was very much into fashion and actually decided to launch her own boutique called Selena Etc. Selena needed help with someone to run her businesses, and since Yolanda was already in charge of the fan club, naturally she entrusted Yolanda with her businesses as well.
When Selena made the decision to open up the boutiques, she needed someone to run them. And there was Yolanda, her trusted friend who would never let her down, who was always there for her.
And I'm the one that suggested, well, what about that girl that runs the fan club in San Antonio? She looks pretty, like a nice person. And that's how Yolanda came into the picture.
You want to know what's the sad thing about betrayal? Is that it never comes from your enemies. Now, Yolanda started to enjoy the perks that came with being friends with Selena. She grew envious and jealous of those around her and feared that her place in Selena's life can be replaced.
Yolanda derived her popularity with people because of her association with Selena. And if anyone else was going to get closer to to Selena or get her ear, that was a threat to Yolanda.
Yolanda grew more and more obsessed with Selena over time. And by this point, if you wanted to speak to Selena, you had to go through Yolanda. Now, you guys know that song Stan from Eminem, where that crazy fan is obsessed and just, ends up going fatal. Well, Yolanda is pretty much Stan level fanatic.
It was neurotic. It was neurotic and it was strange. Fanatical. Selena would come to visit, and then she'd leave and she goes, "Oh, I miss her." I go, "She just left." I was starting to recognize her just basically being controlling and trying to manipulate Selena. I was starting to, I was trying to identify that, and more than anything, I was going to Abraham with the information.
What if the person that you trusted the most betrays you? They have access to all your banking documents and businesses, and they take your trust for granted. What if it was your best friend?
You have vilified Dr. Martinez, Abraham Quintanilla. Why weren't those the people that were attacked? Why your best friend?
There was never an intentional to kill Selena. Never. My intention was to relieve myself from all of that.
You were going to kill yourself?
Yes.
But why did you end up killing your best friend?
I didn't kill her.
It was reported that these boutiques generated over $5 million of revenue. Yolanda, who is now Selena's very close and entrusted friend, had access to all of Selena's financial records and her bank accounts because she was running the fan club and her businesses. Selena then released another album titled Amor Prohibido. And in 1995, Selena was officially crossing over into the English music industry and was going to release her first English album titled Dreaming of You. Yolanda wanted to be so close to Selena that she moved from San Antonio, Texas to Corpus Christi. Now, going back to the boutiques, Selena's boutique started to lose money, and they weren't doing so well. Employees were complaining, and they were stating that the treatment that Yolanda was giving them was horrible. Yolanda would fire people simply because she didn't like them. And then Selena's father, Abraham, started to receive complaints from the fan club stating that people were paying, but they weren't receiving any merchandise or anything autographed in return for their payment. So something wasn't adding up with these businesses, and they were all being handled by Yolanda. So as it turns out, Yolanda was writing forged checks and keeping the funds from the fan club payments. So not only was she stealing from Selena, she was also stealing from her fans. At one point, Yolanda had all of the employees chip in to buy a surprise ring for Selena. And Yolanda then went and bought an egg-shaped ring that Selena actually really liked. Here, she's pictured wearing the ring on March 7th of 1995. Turns out that Yolanda duped her employees because not only did she pocket the money that they gave her, she ended up using the company credit card and then told Selena that the gift was only from her. Proverbs 6 verse 16 to 19 reads, "There are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are an abomination to him. Haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that make haste to run to evil, a false witness who breathes out lies, and one who sows discord among brothers." These 7 detestable sins provide a profound glimpse into the sinfulness of man. The results of iniquity can be irreversible, and the punishment will fit the crime on the day of judgment. So Selena's father, Abraham, began to take a closer look at the financial documents and realized that there was $30,000 that were missing. People started to warn Selena about Yolanda. One of the employees was sent to Yolanda's house to pick up some zippers for a delivery for the boutique. And when the employee got there, the place was covered in photos of Selena everywhere. Martin, who was an employee at the boutique, had went to the dentist, and when it came time to pay, the insurance denied. And when he went to Yolanda and asked her about it, she said, "Oh, I'll fix it. Just don't say anything to Selena." On March 9th of 1995, Abraham confronted Yolanda and let her know that he was on to her. Selena had trusted Yolanda and wanted to continue the friendship, but eventually they had no choice but to take Yolanda's name off everything. She no longer had access to the bank accounts. She no longer had access to the financial records. And this really made Yolanda mad. So mad that she ended up purchasing a gun and told the salesman that it was because her life was in danger and she was threatened by one of her patients. By this point, Selena began to figure out Yolanda's conniving ways and was getting ready to cut her off. Now, this is where things start taking a turn for the worse. Selena had told Yolanda that there was some bank statements that she needed to recover from her, and Yolanda has said that she would return them. Check out how sketchy this is. On March 27th, Yolanda invited Selena over to the motel and said that she would return it then. However, word got out that Selena was going to that motel, so fans completely just flocked the place. And I guess you can say that disrupted Yolanda's evil plot because she ended up not doing what she intended to do on that day. On March 30th, Yolanda checked in to another motel, the Days Inn. She asked Selena to meet her and stated that she would return the bank statements on that day. Selena ended up going with her husband. Many people think that Yolanda would have done it that day. However, because Selena went with her husband, that also interrupted her plan. As Selena was driving home, she then realized that the banking documents were incorrect. So on March 31st, she made the choice that would end up costing her her life. This is the thing about narcissism and narcissistic tendencies. They are master manipulators. They will play with you and play with your emotions, and they will do anything to get to their end goal. On March 31st, Selena went back to the motel. By this point, Yolanda started to feel ill and said she needed to be taken to the hospital. So Selena took her to the hospital, of course, being manipulated. And when they got back to the motel, by this point, it was 11:45 a.m. and they began to argue. Selena fired her officially and cut ties with her. And as she is turning away to leave the motel room, Yolanda pulls out her weapon and shoots her.
Days Inn Motel, it's 901 Navigation Boulevard. What's wrong, man? We have a woman ran in the lobby, said she's been shot. She's laying on the floor and in blood. Okay, where are you? How old is she? She looks about 20. Okay, who's shot her? She's in the lobby right now? Yes, ma'am. She just passed out. Okay. I have to call in. I think you need to send a police unit, too. It'll go off for me. Okay. You don't know anything else about who might have done it or anything like that? It's another lady, that's all I know. We're trying to find out.
The bullet ended up going in on the back and then coming out through the front. Selena immediately took off running and went to the front lobby of the motel, and she's screaming to them saying, "It was Yolanda, room number 158. This gives me the impression that Selena probably knew that she wasn't going to make it. Selena then collapsed to the floor.
11 News is next. A star faded away today. Tejano music queen Selena has been gunned down in Corpus Christi.
Selena was pronounced dead on arrival. The star that had such a bright future was now gone at the age of 23.
The doctor came in and told me that she was dead on arrival.
Her lawyer declined comment on both the murder charges and the allegations of financial misconduct.
When you heard Selena had been shot, what occurred to you?
I knew it was Yolanda. Instantly. She wanted to get back at Selena, and she figured, hey, I did all this for you. If I can't have you, no one else can, and she killed her.
Yolanda tried to end her life in the parking lot.
Word got out that Selena had been shot. Hundreds of fans gathered near the motel parking lot, witnessing a bizarre standoff between police SWAT teams and Yolanda, sitting in a truck. For nearly 10 hours, she held a gun to her head.
You're looking at a live picture right now, coming to you from Navigation, where the standoff continues.
Police say CPR began immediately, but Selena was in critical condition when she left the scene in an ambulance.
So the hostage negotiators were able to convince her otherwise. They got her to exit her vehicle and they immediately placed her under arrest. Yolanda's defense is that it was an accident. She stated that when she pulled out the gun, she told Selena, "Shut the door," and within that moment, the gun went off. Corpus Christi was mourning the loss of their hometown superstar. 3,000 fans showed up on April 1st at Bayford Plaza to the vigil held for Selena, and the very next day, they announced that there would be a public viewing of the casket. Fans were lined up to a mile for this viewing. James 3, verse 14 to 16 reads, "However, if you have bitter envy and selfish ambition in your heart, don't boast and live in ways that deny the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes down from above. Instead, it is from the earth, unspiritual and demonic. Wherever there is jealousy and selfish ambition, there is disorder and everything that is evil." The Greek term bitter is used for undrinkable water. Add to this mix jealousy, and now you have a deadly combination. The selfish ambition that Yolanda displayed, not only was it antagonistic, but it also shows that how she was willing to go great lengths just to achieve her agenda at any cost. Self-centered wisdom that is consumed with personal ambition is not from God. The Bible says that this wisdom comes from earthly, unspiritual, and demonic forces. Earthly being limited to the earth, unspiritual represents humanness, frailty, an unsanctified heart, and demonic represents an unredeemed spirit generated by Satan's forces. The enemy comes as an angel of light. As was in this case, it was Selena's best friend. The Bible tells us that the devil's main mission is to steal, kill, and destroy. Proverbs 6, verse 12 to 15 reads, "A worthless person, a wicked man, goes about with crooked speech, winks with his eyes, signals with his feet, points with his finger, with perverted heart, devises evil, continually sowing discord. Therefore, calamity will come upon him suddenly. In a moment, he will be broken beyond healing." Yolanda is currently serving a maximum of life imprisonment with no possibility of parole until March of 2025. Selena was already popular, but she became even more sensational and well-known after her untimely death. That's it for today. Thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget to share your thoughts down below. I would like to converse with you and see what you guys thought. And if you want to hear more on cases like these, please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.